Hey, Memes. As promised, I had a buddy record Dad's celebration of life for us. So, amongst other things, I was responsible for pressing record on the audio, and unfortunately, I didn't do that until after I had already spoken. Don't worry, I'll read my section again here for you, but you will miss out on some of that in-the-room magic that comes from doing it live. The good news is that everyone else is there. Logan, Dan, Hunter, Mark, Austin, and Dana, all there, all good. So we do have that. So I'll read my prayer that I opened with now, then we'll cut over the actual ceremony, and then I'll end this video with my speech. Love you, miss you, wish you could have been there. Father God, you are good and merciful, loving and kind, and tonight we thank you that you make space and time for us to gather to celebrate my dad, Keith Todd Lewis's life. I ask that you'll continue to bless our time together, to give us strength to those that are speaking, and soften our hearts with laughter and warm memories from our times with Dad. Because God, you are a peacemaker, so please use the celebration and these words to bring peace to our hearts. Your love is everlasting, and so please help us cherish these fleeting moments we have here and now together on earth. Finally, Father God, I pray thanks that you would open your heavenly gates so that Dad could ride in on a Harley and angel's wings. Amen. Dad would have liked that bit about the Harley and angel's wings. All right, over to Logan.
I'm Logan, one of Keith's nephews. I'd like to say thank you guys all for coming out and enjoying this celebration of life. It's very special to see everybody here. It's awesome. It makes me warms my heart to really see all the faces here and to see how full the parking lot is. So thank you guys very much. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to all my staff. Very thankful for you guys pulling this all together with the food, the music, the tables, ladies, Nick, Craig. Thank you guys so much. Takes a massive team effort. Sad. Just want to share a few good memories that I have with myself, other family members, and then Uncle Keith. So if you guys had the chance to ever meet Uncle Keith, definitely one of a kind. I'd say he lived many, many lives in the last 63 years. He really jam-packed a lot of stuff into those years, whether it was auto mechanic, working in the crane business, riding dirt bikes, trials bikes, motorcycles, whatever it is. The man was always living, and that's something that I always appreciated about him. One thing that I always remembered about Uncle Keith was a one-of-a-kind voice and one-of-a-kind laugh. If anybody ever heard his laugh, they would definitely know that that's Uncle Keith. I think you could, I had a saying, you could probably spin me around a few times, blindfold me, and hit me in the head with a bat, and I'd still, yeah, that's Uncle Keith's voice, 100%. So one of those things that I always remember, just being in the office or at the house or whatever it is, and just hearing that big chuckle. You could hear it all the way across the room. So Zach mentioned a bunch of good swimming memories at the Sherwood house. Lots of those memories that I enjoyed and shared with my dad, with Uncle Keith, and the whole family over there. It was always a good time going over there and swimming. And one thing I always remembered was that bridge going across the driveway, whether it was in good shape or not. It's another good memory of that place over there. And Zach and I kind of running around in the creek and, being little boys, hanging out and growing up together. We didn't grow up, I was an only child, Zach was an only child, but we definitely had each other growing up, and I'd like to say we were like brothers, so a bunch of good memories together. Let me see. Uncle Keith. There was the work side of Uncle Keith, and then there was Uncle Keith outside of work. If you guys had the chance to be able to hang out and see him and enjoy his time outside of work, definitely a different cat, and very special to be able to share those memories and hang out and spend time with him, not only at work, but outside of work. Like I said, different as far as that aspect, but, at work, he definitely was business and straightforward with everything. There was really no wiggle room there. It was either black or white with Uncle Keith. So, and I'd like to say, over the last probably 15 to 16 years, whether Dana wants for it or not, she definitely softened that up, and I definitely appreciated that. So thank you, Dana, 100%. Want to talk a little bit about Zach. I think Uncle Keith did a great job raising Zach. If you haven't had the chance to meet him, please talk to him. he's probably one of the most genuine, nice people that you'll ever be able to get to talk to. So really, really thankful for that. And like I said, such a good memories growing up with him. Also, one of the things growing up with Zach was Uncle Keith always taking us out to Larry Causey's farm. Bunch of good memories out there, riding around on the Gator four-wheelers and shooting fireworks off and fishing in the pond. And I didn't really get to go out there after I think Larry maybe got the house built, Zach. I don't know if he ever got to see it or not, but even though there was really not much to stay or hang out in, but just getting to go out there and enjoy it and just running around as a young boy and, free to do whatever we want. Just great memories, always good memories. All the Munster trips, I didn't go up there very, very much with him, but maybe 2 or 3 times, and riding trials bikes and just getting out, be around him and all his people. It's great to see you guys here. So again, thank you for that. One good memory with I'll say with my dad and Uncle Keith. About 6th grade, I had was riding my dirt bike out back at the crane track that my dad had built at the crane facility there, and I ended up crashing and breaking my ankle. Well, let's say I laid on the couch for about a whole week and was telling my dad and uncle, hey, man, I think there's really something wrong here. And they, maybe wanted to disagree with me or not. And, I don't think it's too bad, Logan. Maybe give it another day. And maybe, like I said, about after a week of laying there and in a lot of pain, my mom came by and was like, hey, that's not good. We need to take him to the doctor. And we ended up going to the doctor and not trying to talk any mess or anything, but I'll tie this in later with another story. I ended up needing surgery on my ankle, so it was definitely broken, and it was I wasn't just laying on the couch saying ow for no reason. There was a legit problem there. So flash forward another 6 years, I think, yeah, that's right. Senior year of high school, I ended up graduating. Same thing. I was out riding my dirt bike and ended up breaking my foot. Well, I called my dad because it was just at a track, right around here. And it's like, Dad, I'm in a lot of pain. My foot's hurt and I'm pretty sure it's broke. Can you come get me? He's like, yeah. I'll send Keith down there. I'm like, all right, cool, good. Uncle Keith's flying down to the dirt bike track, and I'm sitting there on my van. I had a buddy there that was riding with me, and he kind of got me over to the van, and I took my boot off, and I was like, hey, Uncle Keith, this one's definitely broken, right? And he's like, yeah, based off that swelling, and it's pretty tweaked up. I would agree with you on that one, Logan. So, just a little full circle there story. Then got one back on him, if you will. One thing about Uncle Keith was he was always there for me, whether it was a helping hand, somebody to talk to, a listening voice. It was he was always there, and I could always lean on him. I have great memories going over to Larry Causey's place and him teaching me how to work on my truck, change my oil, my fuel filters, my transmission oil, all that good stuff. I will ever remember that, and it's just memories that you can't ever take away. Very thankful for that. Another good memory was I needed some help, and he ended up loading up his whole entire fifth wheel for me, and he drug it all the way up to Decatur to a dirt bike track called Oak Hill, and he let me stay in it for a whole week. And I got all my stuff loaded in there, and he basically just took it up to the track for me and got it all set up. And that was just another fond memory of Uncle Keith and him helping me out and doing some things. Another good thing was I think I was actually coming back from Oklahoma and was needing some help, and talked to my dad and say, hey, I need you to meet me here and do this and pick this up. And he wasn't fortunately available, and called Uncle Keith, and he loaded up all my stuff for me, met me off the side of the highway, and we threw the rest of my stuff in the truck, and we kept driving south to the next track. So again, like I said, Uncle Keith always being there to help.
Picked it, nice one out.
This is better? Yes, way better. I can eat that. All right, cool. Yeah, another good, fun mechanic, truck story. So maybe it was about 3 years after I got my truck, and as you guys are all well aware in your big diesel trucks, if you have one, about every 3 to 4 years, you got to replace both batteries in your truck. Well, I had a stereo system in my truck and a few other things hooked up to the batteries. Well, my dad and I ripped the batteries out of there and thought we hooked everything up correctly, but naturally him and I didn't. So the next morning, I was living in Cedar Hill at the time and driving all the way to Arlington High. It was about maybe a 30-minute trip, and maybe I get 10 minutes down the road, kind of get out of our neighborhood, and my lights on my truck are flashing, the stuff in the cab's going on and off, and I call my dad. I'm like, hey, I think we might have messed up. I need some help here. And he's like, no problem. I'll just meet you, just walk outside at lunch, and I'll meet you in the parking lot. And here comes Uncle Keith and my dad to the rescue. And, another funny story, just Uncle Keith popped the hood on my truck, and he's like, hey, stupid, come here. Look at what you did. And we got it all hooked back up, and no issues. Got me on and going down the road. So again, just another good fond memory of Uncle Keith. And I'll end it with this, guys. Life is definitely for the living, and Uncle Keith over the last 10 years had some pretty significant health issues, but that did not stop him from going. He built an amazing shop behind his house, which he worked on many projects over the last 10 years, and that never kept him from going. And that's something that he could just take just absolutely nothing and build, this beautiful Corvette or his cutlasses that he was working on. He could literally just take absolutely nothing and just make it into something that was super special. So another good fond memory of Uncle Keith. And like I said, guys, life is for the living, and no matter what's going on in your life, just get up every day and put a smile on your face, because that's something Uncle Keith did no matter what. And he had some stuff to maybe to not let him smile as much as he did on a daily basis. But like I said, he got up every single day with a big smile and continued on even with all the health issues. So again, really appreciate you guys coming out here, and it's awesome to see all the faces. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name's Dan. And I'm old, so I can use my phone. I got a note card. But this thing won't die on, so I ain't got to worry about that. But Keith and I met in 2005 when me and my son started riding trials. We had a lot in common. Same age. Both like bikes, both like cars. Kiddos, my sons are 3 years apart. I think Zach was right between them. And then, of course, there's Becca and Taylor's. What would you call that? Okay. So anyway, we had a lot in common. And I like Bob Seger also. So that was an added bonus. I'd like to start off with a few funny stories. Number one, we camped all over Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and had a blast. First story is about Zach. When we first started riding, he was on a Beta 50. And we were at Munster, and they had this big uphill, and it was big for them. They were riding like novice class or rookie class or something. And it was bumpy, too. And he's on this little Beta 50, and that thing is just squealing its way up this uphill. And me and Keith are standing there watching, and all of a sudden that thing went from squealing to a screaming banshee. What happened was, even the part of the muffler that held it on broke, and the muffler fell off. So he's running a straight pipe, and he's looking back like, what's going on? And Keith is just yelling, go! Oh, let's see. Another funny story. So Keith had quit drinking for Lent, so he hadn't had anything to drink in like a month. And we go down to Rio Bravo down in Houston to ride. And that Friday night, he had his first drink, and I think he was drinking rum and Coke. He was feeling good. And me and him were sitting in his camper talking, jacking, and I think he had taken a shower. He was just in his underwear. And we're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden it's like, we hear something, it's like, somebody's on your trailer. He gets up and walks outside with nothing but his underwear on, walks around there, climbs up the ladder, and in Keith's voice, hey, y'all get off my trailer, and chases, I think, my boys and Zach off the top of the trailer. Anyway, good times. Huh? He did not. There was some extra colorful words involved in there. I had to walk outside and watch it. I'm like, this is going to be funny. This is going to be good. So another good story, the 2008 Tennessee trip for the World Round. That was awesome. That was Keith had a bus. I think he bought it from one of his brothers at the time. Had this huge bus, me, him, Billy, and my two boys and Zach went up there, and it was incredible watching those guys ride, the stuff that they could do. And it was pretty cool. We left Texas, and I don't think we stopped until we got to Tennessee. The only thing we stopped for was gas. We're changing drivers 75 miles an hour going down the highway. So again, good times. Oh, anyway, I love the guy. Definitely going to be missed. He absolutely loved Dane and his family. And he took a trip a few years ago with his mom. He spoke about that quite often. He told me all about it. But then you brought it up several more times. So, thank you. I don't know who today. Hunter.
How y'all doing? Glad to hear that. This is my moment before. To be honest, it's kind of weird being back here. I hadn't stepped foot on the yard in over a decade. To be honest, it's weird being here for, I actually don't know how to pronounce this correctly, but a myriad of reasons. I think that's how you say it. One being more glaring than the others. But some of the reasons aren't bad weird. They're more nostalgic than anything. Like the way I can look around the yard and shop and pinpoint all the places I would try and hide throughout the day. And how, without fail, me and Rick were talking about it earlier. Good man. He would find me every single time, and I was good at hiding. I know Logan, it's like the spot behind, the paint shop. That was my spot, man. But he'd find me. And at the time, he didn't find it particularly funny in the moment. But some years later, during routine silent layer work, sandblasting rusty old parts, or dropping an engine, or the usual. He admitted being impressed with my tenacious creativity when it came to getting out of work. Something I'm positive he'd never considered doing himself, but despite that, he still saw the seeds of ingenuity. Really, I think he was able to see things. I think he was able to see things like that because Keith himself contained multitudes. He wasn't afraid to be wrong, but he was also willing to listen and truly learn and grow. He was as simple as he was complex. And he was honestly pretty funny. The dude was kind of funny. I have a lot of stories. There's countless stories that I could share, but because Memes is watching, everyone say hi to Memes. We won't share some of those. But there is one that happens to be one of my favorites. Even if it probably won't land because you had to be there. But this was around 5 to 10 years ago when Pop was laid up in Baylor for, I believe, his liver transplant. And it had been a minute since I'd seen him, so I jumped at the opportunity to go and see if I could be of any help. I get there, we chat as we always do. We always had a great rapport. He was easy to talk to. And as the conversation continues, I asked him if there was anything I could do, and he said, well, I'd rock a piss. So I go to the bedside and gingerly start to assist getting him up, and all of a sudden he lets out a holler. And me being concerned, I start checking to see what happened, seeing if anything was out of place. But it seemed like everything was okay. So I asked him what had happened. And with his hand on my shoulder, he took a deep breath, looked up at me and says, I sat on my balls. We just looked at each other for a moment, and it was silent. And then we just burst into laughter. And we just laughed and laughed. Did half. I don't know. It just made everything feel like it was going to be okay. He was going to be okay. Yeah, that was probably like a bad way to anything to spell. Yeah.
For you guys that don't know me, my name is Mark Hubert. I worked here for a while, 20 years ago. I think it was gone for 10. I'm sorry. I worked here with Keith about, I think it was 10 years ago I left. But I've known Keith since the 80s. There's a quote from a book that's been on my mind recently. It says, it's hard to let someone go when you're not done with them yet. Excuse me. And I think everyone here feels that nobody's done with Keith. I mean, he's a good guy. For 40 years, Keith was a constant in my life. He was more like a brother to me than my own brothers. Losing him leaves a massive void. But today I want to focus on how incredibly well he lived. So the outside world, Keith could come across as a no-nonsense, closed book type of guy. But if you're lucky enough to open up his garage, you saw his sensitive side right there. Sitting right inside the garage was his dad's car. Not too many people got to see that side of Keith, but it showed exactly who he was at the core. A deeply loyal, loving guy, and he's rooted in family. Keith's laughter was thunderous. It's the best way to describe it. His heart was big, and his appetite for life was truly insatiable. He loved anything with a motor. We shared a love for classics and antique cars, and we had a lot of trips to swap meets and occasional road trips to some of the best times I can recall with him. But the motorcycles were his passion. Keith didn't just love riding, he lived for it. He rode them, he raced them, he did trials competitions with them. To say that he pushed the limits was an understatement. He was actually care-flighted away from more than a few events over the years. But that wouldn't stop him. There's no chance. He just kept on doing what he loved. I rode with him occasionally, but I could never keep up with him. Keith was a fun, incredibly present husband, dad, granddad, and neighbor. Some of my favorite memories are from when the kids were little. Logan, Zach, be in the neighborhood. I'll never forget Keith wearing a full cow costume, udders and all, to one of the neighborhood Halloween festivals when Zach was young. I'll always cherish the memories of doing Taekwondo with Zach and my kids when they were little, Josh and Megan, and countless neighborhood parties we all shared. Over the years, Keith faced more medical challenges than anyone I've ever known, but his spirit was unbreakable. He always maintained a positive outlook. When he recently was faced with a fractured hip, he called me. His attitude was, fractured hip be damned, and he was out in the garage as soon as he could get out there working again, doing what he loved. And Keith enjoyed doing exactly what he loved, exactly the way he wanted to do it, right to the very end. So as the expression goes, he truly died with his boots on. We're all going to miss his thunderous laugh, his unmatched grit, and his massive heart. I'd like to say Keith lived a full, fierce, and beautiful life. So well played, Keith.
Hello, my name's Austin. I'm Dana's oldest son. I want to thank y'all for being here. Thank you, Logan, for everything. And everyone at Lewis and Crane. This is amazing. Really appreciate that. I want to start with my mom. 16, 15, I don't remember, but we were driving home from some basketball game I had, and before I get out the car, she stops me and she tells me about this man that I knew she was going on a few dates with. I'm the oldest son. I don't want to hear this, man. Yeah, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I'm sitting there listening to her. She's like, Austin, I really, he's passionate about me, and I feel the same back. We laugh, we talk all night. I looked in her eyes, and I was And I just wanted her to be happy. And she was. I was so grateful to him. I couldn't ask for a better man to take care of my mother. When they got married, I was crying like a baby, but I was in the back. You couldn't see me, And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "It's okay, man. I got her. I love her. I promise I do." He said, "Let it go." I said, "I will." And he was right, and I have full confidence in him, and I always have. Back to the duality of him. Yeah, he could be an ass, but he was so kind and so funny. Had a big party side, beautiful spirit. I was grateful to know him, and one thing I did not like is when he asked for help with anything, because it wasn't short and it wasn't easy. And particularly before I had surgery, he had the same surgery before, and I was sweating about it, just really nervous. It's cancer surgery, and he's pouring milk. He's eating his late night snack, as Zach spoke to earlier, and he just says, "It's gonna be fine, man. I'll see you tomorrow." And goes downstairs, says he loves me, and I say I love you too. Sure enough, I was there the next day, healing. As I was getting better, I started helping him sand a car, and I never, he took me from a novice to a notch above that. It's just not my thing. Just didn't have it. But I understood his passion behind it and his mind for it and his heart. I think God really placed it in him, and he walked his purpose. So we can all be proud of him for that. I think biggest blessing is Zach. I got to get another brother. He's a diamond of the soul, and Keith did a great job. Zach learned directly and indirectly from him, and as a man, I think as a father, that's all you can ask for. And seeing what Zach's become, I have always been passionate about him, what goes on in his life. Keith was always worried and always wanting to be the best father he could be. I don't have many funny stories with him. He was a little more serious and respectful between the two of us, but I do remember his laughs, and he would watch, what's that show, Mom, the Blind Singer, Masked Singer. That was his show. And I remember the first time I walked in on him watching that, I was like, are you not changing the channel? Is it about to be over? Something else going on? He said, "No, sit down and watch with me." So we did. I think will.i.am was the guy after that. I don't know. He just had a blast. I don't know. I love him very much, and I'll miss him very much. And I'm grateful that I gained a new family that I will have forever. So thank y'all for being here.
First of all, thank you to everyone to be here to celebrate this enormous man. All the things that have been said. I think that my son just said he could be an ass. We all laughed, Billy, right? We said there's no reason to start lying now. That's not who Keith was. He wouldn't want us to stand up here and say everything was roses. But that's what I remember, and I remember other things. So Keith and I met because of Zachary and Hunter. They put a little parent trap on us. Yep. They wanted to be brothers.
Loadhead,
And they thought, what did y'all say? Because it was Easter weekend, and you were saying, I had to get on to him. I was like, why are you putting my business in the street? He was like, Mom, you never go out. And Zach was like, Dad, you just do bikes. You just do this. So it just raced to it. We got together, and it was told that the wedding was precious. And I said, these two boys knew what they were talking about. All of our other friends would say, oh, y'all have met your match. And they were right. Keith is stubborn. I'm stubborn. Keith was the baby. I'm the baby. But I got to win that one, so I said, but I'm a girl. And he said, okay. We had our first date on April the 23rd, 2010 at Beer Paretti's. He let me pick, and I picked lunch. Because lunch is casual, right? Like, you don't feel so like dinner. Don't have no expectations, man. I get to Bear Paredes, and Keith, there was a big joke about what he was going to wear, how we were going to know each other. And he was going to wear his purple Barney suit. I said, well, don't put on all the stops just yet. Leave a little mystery. He wore this beautiful violet-colored shirt, and Keith had on, and I believe that Kyle had the same thing, like had their initials engraved on him. And I just thought, okay, that's classy. But he stood up off of this bench, and I looked at him when I was walking through, and I said, I'm done. It's over. I ordered the fish, or I ordered the chicken. Keith ordered the fish. I asked him, how's your fish? And he said, pushed his plate towards me. And I took a bite off his plate. And I said, this is the man that I'm going to marry. And I need to get home and start practicing writing Mrs. Keith Todd Lewis. And y'all know, we got married. We got married June the 22nd of 2012. I had 16 years with this man. I had 16 years with the love of my life, and I will always, as long as God continues to let me live, I will always be Keith's wife. Thank you guys so much. We love y'all. Thank you so much for coming out and showing your love. Logan, Nick, getting the Corvette, that was hysterical. But y'all did it. You made it happen. And thank you to the whole Lewis team for putting this together and just this beautiful spread in honor of Keith Todd Lewis. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
Now that I'm a dad, thanks to my amazing wife, Ruby, who has given me our two beautiful kids, Esme and Rami, I've obviously reflected a lot on fatherhood over the past 4+ years. It made me think about the kind of dad that mine was, and the common refrain I heard my entire life was that I had a cool dad. Dirt bikes, motorcycles, traveling the world, cool dad. He never fit in at a PTA meeting or meet the teacher night. He didn't like sitting around being told what to do by a committee. He liked to be his own boss, liked to do his own thing. He didn't always have to be the leader, but what he respected was decisiveness, direction, and leadership. He taught me in life that every choice had its own benefits and costs, and he would rather make a decision and live with the consequences than to waste time hemming and hawing about it. So in that spirit, I made some decisions about memories of Dad to share with everybody. You may find some of them crass or irreverent, others overly sentimental, but either way, it's my choice and I can live with that. But if you knew my dad, you know that crass and sentimental often went hand in hand. My earliest memories of Dad are a combination of silly and sweet. We had a pool at the Sherwood house, and he'd gently swim around with me in his arms, singing Moonlight Bay way before I could swim. I remember the nervous excitement of going skinny dipping for the first time as a toddler. It was past my bedtime, and Dad was naked. I was naked. It was silly. It was fun. And that kind of pool time fun lives on with me and our kids, although they won't be skinny dipping anywhere on our watch. Another early memory with Dad is before putting me to bed, he'd always make sure we had a bedtime snack together. Back then, it was typically Chips Ahoy and milk. I grew out of it until having kids of my own, and now those sweet treats before bed are some of my favorite moments of my day. As I grew up, I never mounted much on a dirt bike, but that never mattered to Dad. The best moments from those trips riding across Texas were with friends that we made and the activities we got into around the events. And whenever I'd come home having placed 4th out of 4, he'd always say, if anyone asks, you got 4th. They don't need to know how many people were competing. Solid advice, Dad. No wonder I work in the marketing department now. When I was about 13, Dad started teaching me how to drink. On a family trip to Destin, he gave me too long of a leash with it, and I ended up drinking a solo cup of straight Wild Turkey bourbon in one sitting, and, well, you can imagine how that went. I painted the kitchen floor and puked, just gnarly. Dad cleaned me up, put me to bed, never said a word about it. He didn't embarrass me about it, didn't belittle me about it, never raised his voice, just let me learn the lesson on my own. And this year marks 10 years of sobriety for me, so I'm starting to think it might have worked. The last memory I'll share about Dad is from his later visits to Boston with me. After graduating college, I would sub in or fill in for one of my old bass professors, playing with a few classic rock cover bands. Playing in dive bars with those guys remind me of the biker bars that Dad would take me to on the back of his Harley when I was just as little as 3. Same Budweiser posters, same Blue Moon neon signs, same beer on tap, and same music. You could have been anywhere in the country if it weren't for the Pats being on TV instead of the Cowboys. The guys I was playing with were all Dad's age. Love the same stuff as Dad. Classic cars, motorcycles. They're cool guys, great musicians, and I was just proud to be in the same room as them. So proud, in fact, that I insisted that Dad come and watch me play with them. Dad had obviously supported my music career from the Larson Auditorium to major music festivals, but these guys were so Dad's speed that I just knew that he'd love it. And when he finally came, I got to look out at my dad, and he was just as proud to watch me play in these tiny, ratty dive bars as he was to see me on the biggest stages that I ever played anywhere in the world. And after every set, he'd smile at me, offer me a fist bump, and say, "Good job, boy." Tonight, I really wish I could go sit down next to him and hear him tell me that just one more time.